This podcast is brought to you by One Chick Cowgirl Productions, keeping the Wild West alive. Howdy, folks. A short message before we dive into this week's podcast. It was recorded last week just before Miah's first solo exhibition, and this was at the Wild Horse Gallery in Redstone, where it took place this past weekend. We had a very insightful and heartfelt Q&A session, and she has since left town and is headed up to Montana for the annual Crow Fair, which is a huge first American powwow. But for today, you can either listen to the episode or see it online and enjoy this wonderful, insightful interview with Miah Chalfant Redbird, also known as She Who Makes Marks. Hello, everyone. Welcome to She Brands Land, where land meets legacy. I'm Charlie Henderson. We've had so many great guests on the show, and it's just every podcast has been different. So I'm super excited. If you haven't hit the follow button, please let me ask you a big favor. If you can hit follow, it helps with the algorithm and it helps this show move up in the rankings and put it in front of people that can learn more about what we're talking about today. Today's a little unusual for me because normally I meet my interviewee beforehand. I kind of go to their home or, there's a lot of preparation that goes into this podcast, but today I'm kind of on my back foot a little. But this is incredibly exciting for me because today I get to interview this remarkable young woman, a Cheyenne woman, and an incredible up and coming artist in the art world. And she's currently at the Wild Horse Gallery in Redstone. As you can see behind her, that is her incredible work. And then we're going to be doing a live session on Sunday at the gallery, a live Q&A, which kind of explores some of the stuff that we're talking about today. But you can meet her. It's at noon on Sunday in Redstone. But welcome, Miah, to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so great to have you. So Miah's making huge waves in the artwork. Her name is very unique. Her name is Miah Chalfant, Real Bird, but she is also known as She Who Makes Marks. So very interesting. I have so many questions for you today, but here, let me start the most obvious. Let's start with your beautiful name. Can you just tell us the story behind it? And
Yeah, so I have a few names in this life. I have my given name, Miah Chalfant. I have my name for my wife, which is Miah Chalfant Real. And then I also carry the name for what I do as an artist. My business name comes from a really beautiful conversation I had with an elder from my community, somebody who is very important to me, like a grandmother. And we sat down one day and we were talking about our language, our Cheyenne language, and what I want to do as an artist. And she was kind of asking me some questions about it. And it got to talking about what an artist was in our tradition, in our way of life as Cheyenne people, like what was an artist to us. And so it started with what the direct translation for our word for what the English word would be for artist. And it's somebody who makes marks, somebody who has the physical action of creating marks on a medium, whether it's on buffalo hide or petroglyphs and pictographs. It was somebody who was telling a story through putting these marks down. And so that's where my name, She Who Makes Marks, came from. And it has been just an absolutely beautiful journey learning who I am and what that means to me. And having this show here in Redstone, my first true solo show, has really been an eye-opening experience for me because it's forcing me to ask myself the questions that like I feel like I'm too big to answer, like who am I really, like what am I doing with my work. And so it's been really fun kind of having that retrospection here, but also getting to know myself and what I'm going to create in the future.
And so yeah, I mean that's so magical. I think let's go back to your childhood. So, what was it like to grow up in a tribal environment? I mean, for somebody like me to understand that.
I grew up with a really special childhood. I came from a ranching family, and so I was a cowboy and an Indian, and to me, these things are the same because it's opportunity to go out on land that you cared for, you know, through genetic memory, through your great grandparents to your great grandparents and your grandparents and your mom and your dad, and then thinking about what future generations are gonna be looking at when they're standing out. And so, I grew up riding horses and chasing cows for as long as I can remember. And it was just probably the best childhood you could ask for a kid because I had a really good sense of responsibilities and what it meant to like take care of something and to have something like your animals depend on you, and also the land and taking care of the land. And so it was a lot of fun. My mom is somebody who has a ton of plant knowledge. Uh, we would on all the time with our tribal ethnobotanist and would just constantly ask questions about medicinal plants and like what we were going to do with them and when you harvest them and all of the different knowledge that you're supposed to know when you're working with these sacred little beings of life that live in the earth. And so I just always had that connection. And my family, like I said, have been ranching for a very long time. And so it's just something that I've been surrounded by. And it's just something that I hope that my kids and the future generations that are coming after me will still be able to do and still have the knowledge to go out and take care of themselves when they don't feel good and when they need from Mother Earth like that.
You know, that resonates so much with me because for me, I grew up in South Africa, and you know, as a child, I was free roaming, barefoot, you know, and on the back of bareback on a horse whenever I could get the chance, and then coming, you know, to America and to this valley, it has meant so much to me because of that resonance with the land. Let's dig down a little deeper because this was probably a question in my mind that I had to ask you was I read the book Braiding Sweetgrass, and to me that book is so pivotal in and everybody should have read it. It was one of those books that you know you just never want to end. But what does sweetgrass mean to your family and to the Cheyenne tribe, or just Native American First Americans in general?
For my tribe specifically, wheatgrass is extremely important. It is a part of our creation story when our creator was making us and he took clay and he put sweetgrass inside the clay, rolled it, and then into it, and that's how we were created. And so it's directly a part of our DNA. It's what we turn to in times of need. It's a plant that we use in a majority of our ceremonies, and it's a plant that takes a really special person to create with it, to grow it. And I was really, really lucky enough to grow up with a mom who had that understanding, had the gift to take care of sweetgrass and had the right to teach about it. And so I would go with her to all of her educational demonstrations and all of the different things that she did. And I would braid sweetgrass with her. And the techniques that my mom uses are some of my favorite things in the whole world because it forces people to talk to each other, to do something that we don't do as much in today's society. And it sit down and look at the person across from you, because the act of braiding sweetgrass is somebody holds one end and you braid it to the other. And it really like kind of creates a beautiful connection. And it's might be somebody you've known your whole life and you get to learn new things about them, or maybe it's somebody you've never met before. And so it just creates community. And I feel that and I see it as a young Cheyenne woman. um, and I come from these two different worlds of my dad being non-indigenous and my mom being raised on the reservation and having that culture. And so it's really beautiful to see a plant like this create community between all of us, because the book that you're referring to, Braiding Sweetgrass, I can't tell you how many times I've been showing my work, or I've been doing educational demonstrations or painting, and I'll have people come up to me and say, I've read this book. It's like so important to me. And like they talk to me about it. And sometimes it's like without them even realizing that sweetgrass is as important to me as it is to them. And we bond over that connection and it creates that community between us.
It's amazing. It's really incredible. I'm seeing obviously your work behind you, and your mediums are so fascinating. Hides, general ledgers, and can you tell
Yeah.
more about these mediums and why you chose to paint on them?
Yeah. So I started my artistic career as a figure artist, and I went to a Native American Catholic boarding school just above my home reservation. And one of the things that we were taught in school, it was really beautiful. They try to incorporate a lot of different traditions, and they incorporate them both from my tribe and then there's another neighboring tribe, the Crow tribe. They bring a lot of our traditions in and them and teach about them, because the school is ran by an indigenous man, and so he understands the importance of it. And so I got to be taught ledger art from the elders in my community and from people that have been friends with my family and like my great grandparents for as long as I can remember. And they just sat down and they just told us what it meant to be a ledger artist, and it was to tell the stories that are told to you through your life. Like that is your job, is to talk about your life so you can connect with the people from your tribe, so you can feel represented and you can represent like who we are and who we're going to become. And so I felt connected to it. I felt like that is a part of my calling. And so I began doing ledger art, and from high school on, it's just something that like I just consumed my doodles and my pages and my books. I couldn't stop doing it. I just loved the way it felt and I love the style of it. And so I started out as a ledger artist, but I knew that I had the kind of gifts that I could push further into different styles of art. And so I had a really great opportunity to go to the Institute of American Indian Art in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I went to school down there for a couple years, and they really taught me the influence of what it is to be a fine artist and what that looked like as an indigenous. And so I had no idea going into it that I be creating in the style that I do now. I didn't know that it was possible. It was just something that I had to trust my gut feeling and went with it. And so while I was down there, I learned how to paint realistic and I learned how to do shading and all of these things that classic fine artists have to do. And then I also learned more about my traditions and my neighboring tribes and my sister tribes. And it was really awesome. And so that's when I began doing these painted buffalo hides like you see behind me. Um, I went to an opening with my mom to a museum that well, to where we are, in southeastern Montana, just over the border into Wyoming. They had received a buffalo hide that was stolen from a band of my tribe in Wyoming. It was a buffalo robe of the Dole battle, and we hadn't seen it as this generation, and to my grandparents' generation, we had never seen it in person. It's something that we had just heard about through oral histories, and by some miracle, the private collector who had collected it from so and so, who collected it from another person who probably collected it from the Calvin man who stole it himself. Um, we got it back. They reached out to the tribe and they said, "This is something we have, and we want to give it back. We understand the importance of it in your culture and in your history." And so, our tribal historic preservation office worked with a local museum in Sheridan, Wyoming, and they were going to put it on display and they were unveiling it for the first time. And I remember going into the unveiling with my mom and sitting in the crowd and there being Cheyenne elders and little kids running around and this group of people who were very passionate about my community. We're all sitting together and they unveil it. And I remember hearing the honoring song that they were playing, the drum group, and seeing the elders crying and seeing people just let their emotions wash over them because we hadn't seen it for so long, but it was something that we could still feel and still remember. And it was beautiful. And so I told my mom, I told anybody that would listen, I was like, I want to create pieces of art that make people feel the same way that it felt when they unveiled this buffalo robe. And so that was kind of my start into painting these buffalo.
It's incredible. I mean, there are such powerful images, but obviously the story behind it is obviously imprinted for you, um, and imprinted for, your tribe and their history. It's quite an amazing story how things come full circle, right? In
Yes, it is.
in a lot of ways. Yeah. Switching gears a little, let's talk rodeo because you and I are big rodeo girls. You are representing you're the rodeo queen for the Southeastern Rodeo, are you not? Yeah, in Montana, right?
Yeah, so I am a title holder right now. I am Miss Southeastern Montana Rodeo Queen. We are based out of Miles City, Montana. If you're familiar with the Miles City bucking horse sale, they also call it Cowboy Mardi Gras.
Okay.
It's world famous, and that's kind of like our host rodeo. And then from there, we carry our titles as the royalty and just represent agriculture as a whole. We talk about our communities that we come from, and really truly we're advocates for the sport of rodeo.
That's amazing. I know you rode in the Carbondale Rodeo last night. How
Yes.
was it?
It was absolutely amazing. Um, just getting to be able to come down here and feel the support from the people in the surrounding communities was a beautiful thing to be a part of. I mean, I got to ride a really, really great horse and, didn't have to worry about entering as a rodeo queen and leaving the arena as a bronc rider. So it was beautiful and just the people were so supportive in the crowd and they were excited to just see us and be a part of what it is to be a rodeo queen. And you got to, shake hands and kiss babies kind of vibe. You just got to smile and be there with everybody. So it was awesome.
I think that's the magic of rodeo. So, I'm board member of the Snowmass Rodeo and out in the front of house. And for me, every ours is on a Wednesday, but our mission is really to make people happy. And the rodeo does that. It's so family oriented. Everybody loves it. I mean, the mutton busting, and the car scramble and all that fun stuff. But it's wholesome America, which in this day and age is people are just longing for that. It makes them. I mean, the smiles on people's faces when they leave the rodeo grounds on a Wednesday night is just it's so heartfelt, and it's just such a unique experience. So whether you're riding in it or running it or whatever, it's the joy that we get to see and what you receive back. I
Yes.
think that that is huge. And then you get to wear really cool outfits too.
Yeah. The fashion aspect of being a rodeo queen is definitely one of the most fun parts of it. And it's always the best feeling when you have a outfit that you worked hard on and you go out and people are like, "Oh my God, like that's a great outfit." Just the recognition of it and the validation of like being a rodeo queen and that being a part of like the history of it is these badass women with great outfits on.
Yeah.
It's awesome to be a part of that legacy.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that fashion and art, because I just went to a lecture last week. It was called Art is Fashion. And it was a panel discussion with a couple of artists here in Aspen. And, it was really centered around how, art influences fashion and how fashion influences art. Right. And so, that's pretty unique. I think you obviously know who I'm talking about, but Naomi Glasses, an incredible Dene, seventh generation Dene, textile artist, designer, model from the Navajo Nation. She collaborated with Ralph Lauren in an inaugural as an artist in residence, right? And that's a huge deal because it really brought authentic indigenous design into mainstream fashion and not just borrowing influences. So let's talk about how fashion influences your art.
Fashion is a huge influence in my art. From being a queen to just being a Western fashionista. I love creating outfits for women, having having sisters and stuff like that. It's fun. It's a part of like who you are as and who you get to grow up to be as like a woman or as somebody who just loves great clothes. And I definitely see it influencing my work as an artist because it has such an impact on my life. I have a series that I have actually here in the gallery that I'm showing, and it's entitled Rawhide to Riches. And so it's really cool because in these paintings I have figures where they're in more traditional regalia. We don't call them costumes, we don't call them outfits, we call them our regalia when we're wearing our more traditional stuff. And so they're sitting here like they're in their regalia. They have like their faces painted, like you can tell that they were wearing their best for the photo that was taken of them. Because that's kind of what you did like during the times when there's just black and white photos, right? Like you didn't have a phone in your pocket and could take 100 photos a day. Like it was an experience to get your photo taken. And so they're sitting here and they're in their traditional regalia. Behind them is a Gucci print. It's like a luxury fashion brand print. And the whole story behind these pieces that I'm creating is that our regalia that we create, dresses, the things we wear, dance in our powwow, the things we wear when we parade our horses, they're worth as much to us as luxury brands are worth to the general public.
Love that.
And so that's something that I really appreciate and recognize in artists like Naomi Glasses, especially working with a luxury brand like Ralph Lauren. It's taking our things that we wear that are important to us and showing the rest of the world that they're more than a costume, that it's more than a garb or like something that you think we're wearing because it's like what you think the Native Americans type should look like. It's really truly wearing our finest things that the equivalency of going out in full luxury, big fashion house designer brands. That's our way of like showing what we have, how we take care of ourselves, and the pride in who we are as indigenous people.
I love that. I love that. So meaningful, really very meaningful. And I think as one gets older, one really realizes that there's just, all that stuff is just stuff. So yeah. You have a fantastic, I love your social media presence. I really dig your music, by the way. I have it on post-its here. I'm like Frank Ocean, Pink and White, The Little Dippers Forever, Tommy Wickman, Million Dollar Baby. I mean, all that stuff. So, I mean, it's cool. Um, it's so refreshing to see how you are representing yourself as an artist and how you're representing, the younger generation. Us elders can learn from you just uh, you know, can be inspired by you too. There's a book written by Chip Conley. It's called Modern Wisdom, and he talks about he mentored the founders of Airbnb, these two young guys, and he had had a big hotel empire, which he sold at like 49. And then these two guys, the founders, basically brought him on as a mentor. And it really speaks to how the younger generation and the older generation can really work together and optimally, because you have, your brain is firing on all cylinders. You're young, you have the energy, but then, elders have the wisdom and the calmness and whatever. And together that's just such an incredible, collaboration. How do you feel
It
like
is.
that plays out in your culture, in Cheyenne culture?
It's a huge influence in who we are and how we function as our own society. Our elders are the one of the most that can possibly exist for us because they are the ones who teach us about life when we need help. And I think that's kind of where we like have this difference with the modern society that we're living in now, is that it's like popular to be like completely self-sufficient, right? Like when you're living out in the world, like this is such an influence on completely being like an individual thing and not having to like have help or not having to like reach out to anyone, but to be able to be like strong enough to do it on your own. But I think a really important thing that we talk about a lot at Cheyenne's, our tradition, is that it's important to be those things, but it's also important to have the self reflection to be like, I need to reach out to somebody who's already lived this, to somebody who could have good advice. If anything, sharing their experience and having like reflection in it. It's just so important to sit down with your elders, to sit with people from these older generations because they remember things differently than how we see them now. They have different knowledge. And I think the most important thing is that it teaches us to never stop learning. Because like you should be a student your entire life and not a student in any type of, institutional term, but to be a student of life, to learn about the people around you, to learn about the land, who was there, who's there now, and to just kind of have that appreciation for all the things around you and to recognize that beauty in your surroundings.
Yeah. And for me, that's kind of what inspired this podcast, was capturing stories and telling stories of the people that came before us, who have been are the fabric of our community here. And so that's been a big thing. You talked about spanning two worlds, and I personally feel this is a constant struggle for me, because I am a horsewoman. I'm a poet and artist in my own right, but I'm also in real life. I'm a real estate broker in Aspen doing Aspen things, right? And it's such a contradictory kind of life, because I know the happiest place I am without, being with my children, is being on the ranch with my horses and my animals or whatever. Um, but obviously I have to make ends meet and kind of do the modern things.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a contradictory life for sure. And I can't imagine what it must be like for you even more so, right?
It is. I wouldn't say for us it's a challenge, or it's not a struggle, but it's definitely a challenge to navigate both these pieces of your life that have equal importance, right? Because we live in a westernized, colonized society of like having your 9 to 5 job, having all of these things influences on you throughout the day, and having like a strict, rigid schedule of work, life, waking up the next day and doing the same thing versus this traditional way of life that we're taught is you get up with the sun, you do the things that they get done, and you just live your life how it just flows through you without having like these westernized pressures. And so it's really it's difficult sometimes, but I think with the way I was raised and just who I'm meant to be in this lifetime and getting to be with a partner who loves and supports me as much as she possibly can and takes and has like a similar lifestyle to me, and having our dogs and our animals able to like surround ourselves in it, it really is, it makes being the corporate side of being an artist makes it feel like it's just a lot of like easy fun stuff, like, oh, this is just like how it is. And I love saying, love what you do, you'll never life.
Yeah.
I think that's true because that's you follow your calling in life is loving what you do. And that's why it feels easy when you're doing something that you love. It might not be easy, but it's easy to get up every day to look forward to your day when you love what you're doing, even when the day. And so that's kind of what I live by.
Let's quickly talk about your wife, your partner.
Yeah.
Because I've heard she's a badass private jet pilot, and she also clips broncs at the rodeo. I mean, tell me.
My partner, her name is Spielberg. She is the first pilot from any Northern Plains tribes. She's one of the first, and then of course she's the first female pilot from these areas, and so she did that nobody's ever done, and it really made an influence on not just her own community as a Crow tribal member, but all of Indian country. And it's something that I've like have so much appreciation for as her partner, getting to go around and having people recognize her accomplishments through being a pilot, but then also knowing that she comes from this amazing lineage of her grandfather being Henry Wilbur, who was the poet laureate of Montana
Wow.
2 different times. And she has just really good lore, really good genetics to come from to be something amazing. And it has fulfilled it. And right now she is taking a little bit of a side quest from being a pilot, and she is working on a book with the Curtis Legacy Foundation, which is with a famous ethnographer, Edward Curtis. He took the most extensive collection of photos of indigenous tribes in the United States that's ever been done. And so she is working on a project right now that connects the historical photos with the descendants
Wow.
from that are living today. And so her project is like absolutely beautiful. We're getting ready to go to Muskegon, Michigan, which she is curating that exhibit. So she's also a writer, she's also a curator on top of being a poet and a pilot. And we're going out and we're getting her the museum ready for her exhibition that's coming up there for the Descendants Project, without reservation. And so it's just an absolute blessing to get to travel with somebody whose life aligns so perfectly within my own. And our work is always connected to each other in some way. And so it's just her and I's story together is simpatico. It's exactly how it's supposed to be.
Wow. two badass women under one roof. Holy cow. But that's incredible. And I honestly would love to interview her on this podcast around that. I think that to me is just blows the doors off things. So yes, and I can't wait to meet her on Sunday with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we spoke a lot about like how you're so committed to storytelling, and this podcast obviously is the same for me. Who've come before us, how they've contributed to land and our Western heritage, and it's just so amazing and heartening to me to see how you're bringing your younger take on tribal culture into the future. You and artists like Naomi Glasses and and a lot of people. So, what's in the future for you? What do you see as a future for Miah?
Looking into the future for myself as an artist, I just can't wait to push my creative limits. I love creating with new media constantly. I would look into clothing design and translating some of my like canvas pieces into wearable works of art. I've always loved the idea of that. I grew up as a in runway watching all the TVs, America's Next Top Model, and I just want to keep pushing the boundaries of what I'm doing as an artist and trying things that I've never done and taking things that I've done in the past and reworking them and something entirely different out of it. And so I want to keep creating these big, beautiful buffalo hides and keep sharing the story of them and the technique and keep it alive within my culture. And another thing is just teaching as many kids as I can how to be themselves and how to accept being themselves and what that means to us as young Cheyenne people and what our tribe is going to look like with others.
Yeah. Wow, powerful stuff. um, Thank you for. I feel like metaphorically we braided sweetgrass today in some ways.
Yes.
So much in my heart. Thank you. I get a little emotional. Holy cow. So I can't wait for Sunday. For the audience, please, if you're listening, Sunday at noon, we're gonna have a conversation like this again and maybe dig deeper. But I love the metaphor of braiding the sweetgrass and just having this conversation, and getting your message out. And I just think you are an incredible inspiration to the younger generation, maybe the older generation too, but how you are representing yourself and your culture and our Western heritage, and how you are branding the land and your partner too. I mean, how we are all part of this aspen grove that are connected, and
Yeah.
it's just such a privilege for me to have spoken with you today. So thank you so much.
Yes. In my language, we say Niaish.
Nia.
So thank you, Niaish, for having me today and sharing these moments together. I cannot wait to do our talk on Sunday.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Thank you so much for listening in today. What a powerful conversation. If you can make it out on Sunday, great. Otherwise, the podcast will be aired after Sunday's event. So it'll be perfect. If you cannot be in there, you can at least listen to this podcast. And as always, I say giddy up and be well. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening. This episode has been brought to you by the Lewis and Henderson Real Estate Team of Aspen Snohomish Sotheby's International Realty.